The most expensive mistake dementia caregivers make is not about the medical bills. It's waiting too long to secure their legal and financial footing that the family needs. Once your loved one loses the capacity to sign documents, your options can shrink overnight, and the fallout can be devastating, not just in dollars, but also in the peace and clarity that you lose in the process. Hey, Christian Care Companion. Welcome to Dementia Caregivers Support for Christians. I'm your host, Lizette. And if you are the adult daughter that is balancing work, kids' schedules, and late night calls from your mom's care team, or if you're the wife trying to make wise decisions with and for your husband while honoring your vows you made before God, you are in the right place. I help overwhelmed Christian caregivers make the right decisions, biblically, relationally, and practically, while navigating your dementia care journey. And if you've ever wished you can sit down with somebody who gets it, who can help you think through your next big caregiving decision without adding to your overwhelm, I invite you to our next Ask the Dementia Coach session on Saturday, August the 23rd at 12 p.m. Eastern. This is not a workshop or a lecture. It is a live guided coaching session where you can bring your real questions, leave with the plan you can act on right away, and walk away knowing you have made the best choice you could in this season for your loved one and for yourself. So let's talk about today's conversation, because if you've ever wondered how to protect your family from costly mistakes in dementia care, you're going to want to hear this episode. So let's dive into a Dementia Caregiver Support in Action episode 278, where we talk with Margie about how to avoid some of the most costly mistakes that dementia caregivers make. Nice to meet you, Margie.
Nice to meet you.
Wonderful. I am very excited and glad that you are here. And I'm so happy that you came. So what we're going to do, and it's okay if you do get emotional, what I am going to do, though, is I'm going to take you through these questions, okay? And if you do not want to answer, you do not need to. This is your space to share or not share as you want to. So nothing is required to answer. And if you do not feel comfortable, you can just say, I'm not comfortable, okay?
That's fine, yes.
So let's say it's 6 months from today and things are easier in your caregiving journey. What would that look like for you?
Currently, my journey is not too difficult. My husband is in early stages. I think in 6 months, I would like to not work outside the home.
Okay, hang on to that.
Okay, that's my goal. Anyways, financially, that's a little challenging,
Okay,
but trusting the Lord will make that work.
of course. Now, before you continue, I'm going to ask you, and I'm going out of order with you just a little to help me understand. You said early onset. How old is your husband?
76.
Okay. And how long have you known?
Maybe 2 years, but the last 6 months has been really significant.
And has he got an actual diagnosis?
He does not want to have an MRI or go to a neurologist. He thinks everything's okay. He's just getting older. And he is, but he can't tell time or
Okay.
finances or all the things.
That's super helpful. Now, without you disclosing your age, are you and your husband close in age, or is there an age difference?
I'm 68.
Okay.
There's almost 10 years. Yeah.
So
Mhm.
there's a little bit of an age difference. And you mentioned particularly not working outside the house as a goal and financial. Who do you have that supports you? Do the two of you guys have children?
We have 4, 2 biological for me. They're all stepchildren for him. I was previously married. My first husband passed away, so I have 2 stepchildren, which I raised. They're all adult children, all
Okay.
adults. Of
Wonderful.
course, I guess I'm old enough. So, one's very close, but she is a single mom with a type 1 diabetic daughter, which I care for as well
Okay.
a lot. So I have a high, uh, oh, it's not truthfully not stressful because the Lord helps me that I work with homeless and vulnerable people. I'm
Okay.
with something called Mercy.
What will help you accomplish the goal of not working outside the house, as well as then be able to still meet your financial goals? That was the first part of it. What would it take to set you up for that, not working outside the house?
Since I only need to trust the Lord that He would provide. I don't see financial help coming from anywhere else. We don't have any bills, just our mortgage, but we live on a limited retirement. I'm on Social Security, he's on Social Security, and we have an annuity that he from his job.
Okay.
So I truthfully don't know. We kind of live paycheck to paycheck as it is.
Okay. So, may I give you my best recommendation for where you are right now today?
Sure.
Okay. I 100% know and agree we need to trust in the Lord to provide. And He also gives us ways and means of doing that. It's not we need to be strategic, and we need to think this through, and we need to look at where we are, right? So, have you and your husband set up your financials in a way to protect your assets?
No, I don't know, actually, I don't think so. We only have a house and 1 car. We don't
Uh,
really have assets other than our home.
well, let me unpack that for you just for a second, because based on what you shared with me, you do have assets, okay?
Yes,
Because
or
an
okay.
annuity is an asset, a house is an asset, right?
The annuity would come to me if he died. If we both died, it's gone. It's not does not go
I
towards any.
understand, but
Oh,
what
okay,
I'm
okay,
what I'm trying to say is those are assets,
okay, okay.
and assets need, particularly in the case of dementia of any sort, needs to be, if we are able, protected in order for you, a global you, not you, Margie, for a person who is navigating this to not necessarily totally blow up their financial future and their financial picture by dementia and dementia caregiving. So, my
Okay.
best recommendation for you is, in light of what you said that you do not know what the picture looks like, is that you likely need to sit down with an elder care attorney and explore whether, in your particular situation, asset protection makes sense, because there are ways to structure your assets so that you do not necessarily need to liquidate everything you own in order to provide care. So let me propose it to you in this way. If your spouse, if your husband lives long enough with this process, he will require 24-hour care. If he lives long enough with this process, he will require 24-hour care. That does not mean facility-based care. It just means that he will have to have somebody with him 24 hours a day. The reality of the matter is, one person alone cannot do it well. They burn themselves out when they try. People can do it, but it cannot be one person by themselves. So, not all people living with dementia end up needing 24-hour care, because some of them pass away before they get there. But if we plan for the worst, which is he will need 24-hour care at one point or another in this process, how am I going to accomplish that? And we backtrack it from there. So the first thing that you need to consider is truly looking at your assets, asset protection. There are multiple ways an attorney can do it. They can use trusts, they can use a life estate. There are other things depending on each different state that a person is in. Then there are a few people who are financial people who help you figure out how to not run out of money in this process. Okay? There's a local person here to me that does that. He calls himself the financial social worker, right?
Mm.
And so what he does is he looks at people's assets, house, car, annuities, life insurance, all of these different things, and tries to structure it in a way so that if your husband needed 24-hour care and you were not able to provide it for him at home, how can we structure it so that we don't put Margie in the poorhouse for having given up all of her assets, all of your hard-earned assets that your husband and you worked for in order to provide that care? So that is what I would recommend that you start with related to your particular problem right now, and that is really looking at your legal stuff. Do you have a healthcare power of attorney? Do you have a durable power of attorney for financial decisions? Have you made the living wills? Really, honestly, the first place for you, Margie, is to go and speak to a estate planning attorney. Okay?
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, what's one step that you can take today, or what's one action step after today's conversation that you can take after we just went through this today?
Find an elder care attorney and set up some asset protection. Check on. I think I have a durable power of attorney. I'm not sure, and I do. We do have a living will, so
Right.
I'm just not sure how current. I mean, we made them a long time ago. So.
Right. It's very, very important before your husband gets to the point where an attorney can say he does not have capacity to make these decisions, to have these looked at, revisited, and then changed, if he still does, to reflect where you guys are now. Everybody should be reviewing their documents once a year and ensuring that
Oh,
things
okay.
are up to date, because things can change, right? For example, I mentioned a client earlier. Their mom had a durable power of attorney. It was her husband and then her brother, and there were no subsequent people. And so her husband's deceased. If her brother dies, her children have to go to court and get conservatorship and guardianship. So I would strongly encourage you to expend the time and effort, even though things are overwhelming, to go through and do that now. Set yourself up for success in the future. Okay?
Would you suggest I do that with him or on my own? He's
I would suggest, in light of what you have said, you pull all of the documentation together, you look at it first. And if it needs to be adjusted, then, when you call the attorney's office, you explain the situation. He would need to go with, and he would need to be a part of the conversation. But start with the documentation first. And then the way you need to probably consider navigating it is it needs to be a directed conversation. So what I mean by that is, if the durable power of attorney already is you and the people that are suitable successors, maybe we don't need to change his. But if they're not, then maybe, because sometimes we pick somebody from 10 years ago that was a friend that we're no longer in contact with, right? If that's the situation, identify the people who they should be and present it to him and say, what do you think about these people? And then have a conversation. It's kind of like the analogy of going to a restaurant and you have 100 things that you can choose on the menu versus, okay, here's a shorter menu, choose 3 things. So your job is to take it from 100 to 3.
Okay. When you say directed conversation, that
You're
would be
guiding you will be guiding the conversation to get the result that you want, which is the updated paperwork if it needs to change.
okay.
Okay, so what I mean
Okay.
by I directed a conversation is there is a particular outcome. You know what the outcome needs to be, particularly if the documentation needs to be updated. And your job is to help guide him through that without lots of overwhelming information that shuts his brain down and he cannot make a decision. So whereas before, Margie, you and he would sit and have a conversation. Well, we could have this person, or what about this one, or the conversations we have to narrow down the options and solutions. We do not want to do that with him. We want to give him the narrowed down solutions and then help him make the best decision off of those. And if he's not able to, then it becomes a situation of does he really still have the capacity to make that decision? An attorney can help. Competency and capacity or legal and medical determinations. But your very first next step should be to consider going and speaking with an elder care attorney about what your particular situation warrants and needs. Okay?
Okay.
I hope
Okay.
that
Thank
was
you.
helpful.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
People who are really benefiting from the community are the people who joined earlier on before
Yeah.
they need it and
Yeah.
and that have been active and are participating in the community because then they already know what questions to ask and they have a place to come and they're not constantly wondering, what do I need to do? How do I need to do it? So people listening are interested in tapping into or learning about the community. I'd invite you to just go to the website, thinkdifferentdementia.com. There's a link for you to schedule a 20-minute call. There's no pressure. I'll serve you regardless of whether you join the community or not. But it is a way for you to take this relationship a little deeper, a little bit more hands-on support, because really the research also shows it's longitudinal support over time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For sure. I would highly recommend Lizette. She's awesome.
Tracy, I appreciate that endorsement.